Linda Richards moved into her driveway and pressed the button to open her garage door. She drove inside, as she always did, and noticed that her husband's truck was not in the garage. Perhaps he took the children somewhere for dinner, she thought. She thought that it was too late for them to go out. But on the other hand, the children did not have to go to school tomorrow, since it was Friday evening. She smiled at the thought of Jack taking care of the kids for a change, as she often felt like she was taking care of 3 children instead of just 2. She got out of the car and entered the house. It was already dark outside, and the interior of the home she shared with her husband and 2 children seemed eerily quiet without the light and noise of video games coming from their big-screen TV. She remembered what she had done earlier that evening with her lover Michael and felt a little guilty, but only for a moment. Looking around the dark, quiet house, she wondered if this would be her fate if Jack decided to finally end their marriage. After thinking a little, she laughed and headed upstairs. No, she thought. If Jack was going to do something, he would have done it already. She'd been dating Michael for 8 months, and Jack had bought into all her excuses, no questions asked. At first, she only visited him 1 or 2 days a week, but lately she had been spending up to 4 evenings a week at his house, including Fridays, making up excuses for Jack. She was pretty sure Jack knew what she was doing, but he never pushed her. He didn't even question her when she lied and told him she had a weekend conference in New York a month or so ago. The truth was that she spent that weekend with Michael, in New York, of course. Michael was the only one who needed to attend the conference. She was his +1 for the entire weekend. And now they were planning to spend a whole week on a cruise together. They just needed to find an excuse that Jack would accept. She went upstairs, undressed, and slipped into the shower. She wanted to be as fresh as possible for her husband when he returned with the children. She wanted to be clean in front of Jack in case he wanted sex. Of course, he hadn't been flirting with her lately, so she didn't expect him to do it tonight. And yet, she thought, no one ever knows for sure. She slipped under the covers and quickly fell asleep. The next morning, she woke up expecting to see her husband next to her. But he wasn't there, and his side of the bed didn't look like it had been disturbed. She listened, but heard nothing else in the house. Maybe they are outside, she thought. She stood up, put on her robe, and looked around the house, but there was nothing to indicate that they were there. She looked outside, thinking maybe they were working in the yard, but there was no one there. She ran around the house calling them, but there was no answer. Distraught, she looked into the garage, but Jack's truck was still missing. She ran back upstairs and looked in the closet. All of Jack's clothes and toiletries were gone. She ran into the children's bedrooms and saw that their things were also missing. Has he finally left? She took out her phone and tried to call Jack, but received a message saying that the number she was calling was no longer in service. "Oh, God, no!" she exclaimed. She called his parents in Southern California, hoping they might know what happened. "Mom, it's me, Linda," she said when Jack's mother answered the phone. "Have you heard anything about Jack and the kids lately?" "No, Linda, I didn't," said Lorraine, Jack's mother. "Everything is fine?" "No," said Linda. "Yesterday, late at night, I returned home and they were no longer there. I assumed they had gone out to dinner, but they didn't return home. I tried to call Jack but received a message that his number was no longer in service." "I don't know what to tell you," Lorraine said. "Maybe you should call the police and report them missing." "I will do so, thank you," she said. Having finished the conversation, she went to the kitchen for a cup of coffee. That's when she saw it, an envelope lying next to the coffee pot. Jack's ring lay on top of the envelope. Frightened, she opened the envelope and pulled out a piece of paper, a typewritten note from Jack. She sat down with a cup of coffee and read the note. "Linda," the note began, "in case you haven't figured it out yet, I'm leaving. The children are with me, and they are fine. It's obvious to me that you forgot that Friday was our 15th wedding anniversary. Of course, you chose to spend it with Michael Freeman rather than me, but I'm really not surprised. This isn't the first time you've missed an important family event. Last month, you apparently forgot that Jason turned 13. I told him that you were busy at work and couldn't get out. Of course, I know that you really were in Freeman's bed. You did the same for Allison's birthday 3 months ago. She was heartbroken when she found out that you put your lover above her. Do you remember how Jason got injured while playing football at school 2 months ago? That's right. You didn't bother looking after him because you were with Freeman. The school told me that they tried to call you, but they were told that you were in a meeting. Imagine my surprise when the private investigator told me that you and Freeman were actually doing the horizontal mambo at the Hilton that afternoon. Yes, I have known about your ongoing affair with Freeman for some time now. And the children know this too. I also know about that supposed conference you went to in New York, and I know about the cruise you and Freeman are planning to take later this year. Don't worry, you won't have to lie to me about it anymore. Since you decided that Freeman was more important than your family, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I hoped that you would break up with him and become my wife and mother of our children again. Perhaps we could work things out, but you chose not to. You've been practically absent for the past few months, so now it's my turn. I'm leaving. And since you don't seem to care about the children, they also left and will stay with me. The divorce papers will be handed to you sometime early next week at your place of work. Yes, I am filing a plea for adultery, as it is legal in this state. I am also suing Michael for alienation of affection, as that is also a crime in this state. I may not get much, if anything at all, but that doesn't matter. It's the principle that matters. You see, I teach kids that bad choices have consequences. Considering that you chose your lover over children and left them in my care for 3 or 4 nights a week while you were having sex with Freeman, I am asking for custody of the children, and you may be required to pay child support. Since you make good money, I ask you not to order spousal support. I won't stop you from seeing your children, although you will have to get a passport and pay for your own travel. You see, we are moving to Australia. I accepted the promotion and will be leading our company's operations there for at least the next 5 years. I had hoped to share this good news with you, but as always, you chose to spend your evenings with Freeman, and I never got to celebrate my promotion with you. You will also find a signed resignation letter in the top drawer of my desk. I'm leaving you the house and half of our bills. I took my name off everything. Now it's all yours. Enjoy. By the way, if you decide to fight your divorce, you could become the next internet porn sensation. Along with your resignation letter, you will find a package containing several rather explicit photographs of you and Freeman together. These are just a few snippets that I have from the many hours of video I filmed with you both. I would like to say that the last 15 years have been wonderful. Unfortunately, I cannot. Sure, the first 13 or so were pretty good, and I gave you all the love I could, but obviously, that wasn't enough for you. For the past year or so, you have been distant and have rejected all my attempts to win you back, offering only flimsy excuses for your constant absences. You may have noticed that I haven't had sex with you for quite some time. Truth be told, the thought of getting a few sloppy seconds from you filled me with disgust. I suspect you thought I didn't mind what you did because I never tried to physically stop you. You know I would never physically harass you or tell you what to do. I'm just not wired that way. But the truth is that you hurt me more than you know, and I will never be able to overcome this. So please spare me the cliches and nonsense. You should know that in all the years that we were together, I never even thought about cheating on you. I have always been there for you and the children. You were my main priority, above everything else. On the other hand, you haven't been with all of us for the last 8 months. Now, we are the ones who no longer exist. I hope it was worth it for you. Don't try to contact me or the children. I'll let them contact you if they want, but I have to warn you that they're not very happy with you right now. If you have anything to tell me, please do it through my lawyer, whose business card you will find in this envelope. Goodbye, Linda. The letter concluded. It was signed simply, Jack. With tears in her eyes, Linda folded the letter and put it back in the envelope. She took out Jack's lawyer's business card and placed it on the table, promising to call on Monday. She took out her cell phone and called Michael. He answered after the second ring. What did he do? Michael roared when she told him what Jack had done. That son of a bitch. You told me he didn't mind what you did. I was pretty sure he knew, but he never tried to stop me, she said. Now, they're all gone. What should I do? She exclaimed. Do you want me to come? He asked. Please, she begged. Michael walked up to the house, ignoring the man parked just down the street in a nondescript sedan. Thanks, Mom, Jack said when his mother finished talking to Linda. You're welcome, son, she said, hugging him. Promise me you'll call when you get to Melbourne. I'll do so, Mom, he told her. The children hugged their grandmother one last time, and all three headed to the airport. This was the start of a new adventure for the children. For Jack, it was the end of a 15-year chapter in his life. Part of him missed Linda, but another part was glad to be away from her. She had cuckolded him for 8 months with Freeman, and now it was all over. It's time to start all over again, he thought. As promised, Linda was served with divorce papers at work the following Monday. The process server made sure to announce that she had been served with divorce papers on the grounds of adultery and neglect. Linda felt her face flush with embarrassment as her co-workers looked at her. Michael Freeman has been sued for alienation of affection. Linda contacted Jack's lawyer, but he simply told her to either sign the papers or hire her own lawyer. She consulted several lawyers, but was told that Jack's offer was as fair as she could have expected, given the circumstances. She signed the papers and returned them to Jack's lawyer. Jack, meanwhile, had moved into his new flat in Melbourne, and the children loved their new surroundings, although it took them some time to get used to the area. Jack read the email from his lawyer with interest. He was pleased to learn that Linda had signed the papers, but was unhappy that she had moved Michael to his former home. Well, he thought, it was just a matter of time before this happened. The divorce was finalized quickly because Linda did not object. The court ordered her to pay a small amount of child support, which she did. Jack didn't really need the extra money, so he put it into a college fund for the kids. Freeman settled with Jack's lawyer out of court. This money was also transferred to a college fund for the children. Over the next 2 years, Linda sent the children Christmas and birthday cards, as well as a short letter to each of them. From these letters, Jack learned that she sold the house and married Michael, who eventually cheated on her. After doing an internet search, Jack learned that the woman Michael was dating was married, and her husband wasn't too happy about being cuckolded. As a result, both Michael and the woman were shot in the head with a .45 caliber bullet, and the husband ended up in prison. Jack, of course, was not at all surprised. Once a cheater, he remains a cheater forever. Linda kept promising to visit the children, but never came. Again, Jack wasn't surprised. It didn't take long before the kids simply laughed at her promises, calling them just more smoke and mirrors. Over time, postcards and letters began to arrive less frequently, and after 3 years they stopped coming altogether. Jack, on the other hand, met Chloe, a blonde beauty who was originally from Adelaide. She had moved to Melbourne 5 years earlier after her husband left her for another woman. They dated for almost a year before he proposed to her. Are you sure about this, Jack? She asked. You know that I can't have children, and that's what made my first husband leave. Your first husband was an idiot. I've never been so sure of anything in my life, he said. I love you madly and want to spend the rest of my life with you. I love you madly too, Jack, she said. And I want to spend the rest of my life with you. But what about your children? Will they accept me as their stepmother? Well, let's ask them, Jack said. The next day, Jack and Chloe were babysitting in his apartment. Guys, I fell in love with Chloe and asked her to marry me, he said. But I want to know how you feel about this. Will you accept her as your stepmother? No, Allison said, causing Chloe to recoil in shock. Jack looked at his daughter in surprise. Why not? He asked. Because, Dad, Jason said, we don't want her to be our stepmother. We want her to be our mother. Is it true? Chloe asked. Do you want me to be your mother? But what about your biological mother? She gave up on us a long time ago, Allison said. So if you want to marry Dad, you'll have to become our mom. Are you ready to do this? Chloe looked at Jack in shock. She then looked back at the children and pulled them into a hug. "Of course," she said, and tears streamed down her face. "I would like to be your mother." A couple of months later, Jack and Chloe got married in a small outdoor ceremony. Allison was Chloe's maid of honor, and Jason was Jack's best man. After 5 years, they all returned to the States for a short visit. Jason had been accepted into the Air Force Academy, so they decided to take him there after a short stop in Southern California, where Jack introduced Chloe to his parents. From there, they flew to Denver, where Jack was to meet with his boss and the board of directors before returning to Australia. After checking into the hotel, they headed towards the elevator, but stopped when Jack heard a familiar voice. "Jack, is that really you?" He heard a woman's voice. Jack looked back and saw his ex-wife Linda heading towards them. She looked as if she had aged 20 years since he last saw her. She was thin and had streaks of gray in her hair. "Linda?" he asked. "Yes, it's me," she said. "Who are these people? Aren't you going to introduce me?" she asked, pointing at Chloe and the kids. "You don't even recognize your own children?" asked Jack. "Those you haven't even said hello to in the last couple of years?" "Oh my God," she said in shock. "You've grown so much, and you look so healthy. Well, who is this young lady?" she asked, pointing at Chloe. Jack couldn't help but smile. "This is our mother," Jason said proudly with a slight Australian accent in his voice. "Her name is Chloe," Allison added. "Now she is our mother." Linda stepped back in shock. "Your mother?" Linda asked. "But I'm your mother." "No," Jason said. "You gave birth to us, but you stopped being our mother a long time ago. Around the same time you stopped being Daddy's wife." Linda looked like she was about to faint, and an older man in a suit approached her. "Linda, are you okay?" he asked. She shook her head and tears rolled down her cheeks. The man supported her and helped her sit up, then looked at Jack, Chloe, and the children. "Who are you people?" he asked. "What did you do with her?" "We were just passing by," Jack said. "All we did was remind her of something she once had but she threw away." "And who are you?" "Carl Williams," he introduced himself, holding out his hand. "Linda's fiancé." "Groom, huh?" asked Jack. "Well, I hope you have better luck with her than I did." "Are you her first husband?" asked Carl. "Yes," said Jack. "I see," said Carl. "Linda told me about you and the children. Did she tell you what happened?" asked Jack. "She said she made the biggest mistake in her life," Carl answered. "Yes, and it only cost her whole family," Jack said. "Like I said, good luck to you. You'll need it. See you later, buddy." With these words, Jack, Chloe, and the children went to their rooms, leaving the sobbing Linda behind. "Was this really your first wife?" Chloe asked on the way upstairs. "Yes," said Jack. "And if you ask me, I definitely changed." "Yes, you did," she answered with a smile. "And don't forget about it. Subscribe to our channel so that your second chaff doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think about listening to the next one.